Okay, with the recording turned on now. So the topic here, obviously, how to get a client started in Knowify. Our goal for this meeting is to figure out how to implement Knowify for a client without overwhelming them. Knowify is a very big platform. Any of you who have seen one of our demos or who have played around in Knowify yourself, you probably already know that, that there's so much there that it's very easy to overwhelm people who are new to the system. So what's our goal here? What do we want you to know by the end of this presentation? First, we want to know which high impact but easy to use tools you can start off with. Things that you can take to your client, show them, get them to use right away that are easy, straightforward, very little, we would call it slippage, meaning that once you give it to them, they know how to use it. You don't need to train them. It just sort of goes. And then we want to talk about how to add functionality over time. You're not just coming to Knowify for things like proposal management. You obviously want to get more out of the system. We want you to as well, but we want to phase it out in a way that's going to make it stick. All right, and then we'll also talk about how to think about complexity versus functionality, and then also a little bit on the pitfalls to look out for. Okay, so an important note here, we are not a one-size-fits-all package. There are certainly segments of the construction industry that we don't serve. So, I want to be very transparent with you. We do not serve commercial general contractors. If you have any of those, if they're big, use a package like Procore. If they're smaller, you can use something like Red Team. It's a segment of the market with many, many different options. It's a service-only contractor. That would be like a plumber who just goes and unclogs drains, things like that. There are many packages for them. On the bigger side, Service Titan. On the smaller side, House Call Pro. You'll see there are many. We also don't recommend bringing to us clients that don't do any contract management or invoicing. So guys who are building for their own portfolios, guys like real estate developers, not really a great fit for us. Okay, so let's talk about the high-level implementation strategy and categories, the way we sort of think about breaking down implementing Knowify for a client. So we have the basics, which are things like going through account setup, getting QuickBooks side synced, and then giving them a tool right away that they can use that, again, is very easy, but shows value. And for us, typically that first tool is bid and change order management plus the invoicing side of that whole equation. So it'd be the revenue side of their business. The second thing in terms of implementation, we look at job costing. So many people come to us because we're a job costing platform and because QuickBooks is woefully insufficient, QuickBooks Online rather, is woefully insufficient as a job costing tool. So what we start with on the job costing side, even though Knowify has very, very powerful, robust, for example, budgeting and budget tracking, we're going to start with something much simpler though. We want to start clients with simple job costing, which is going to be based on timekeeping from the office and simple bill or expense processing in Knowify, or actually even preferably a pull that we have where we can pull bills and expenses from QuickBooks. So there's almost no change in process except for maybe timekeeping in Knowify, but timekeeping in Knowify can push to QuickBooks, and then we're going to pull expenses from QuickBooks, and that's going to give you the job costing. Now, obviously, we can go deeper down the rabbit hole, but we're only going to go deeper down the rabbit hole once this simple version has stuck. And then phase 3 is you start adding tools to add functionality, to give a richer experience, which would be things like the mobile app, purchase orders, budgeting, project management, etc. per job in Knowify. These are wonderful tools. I mean, this is really why people use Knowify, because it's an all-encompassing, really powerful sort of project management, job costing system, etc. But in terms of implementation, let's remember our audience here. Contractors are not often super tech savvy, super software oriented people. We need to make sure that we're starting them and making them proceed at a pace that's going to get the software to stick. And that's what this webinar is about. So again, the goal here, start them slow, deliver immediate value, but not in a way that's going to overwhelm them. All right, before we actually start talking about these phases in any detail, I want to mention that you guys, get a free account. So make sure you have that first before we start dealing with any of your clients. It makes everything better because we can tie your account to theirs, and then you'll have access And whenever you want, you can also play around in your own free single user account. I mean, all sorts of good things. Just email us, support@Knowify, and we'll get you your free account. Two, and this is also sort of important, we are happy to share a co-branded checklist for you around this implementation path. So you let us know, we'll put your logo beside ours on a checklist, and you can share it with your client. And the idea here is that, with that checklist, the client can know what's ahead. They can be ready for the road they face in implementing Knowify and feel comfortable and their expectations are set. It also makes you look really organized. All right, so let's talk about phase one, this whole idea of starting with the basics. And this is going to deal with sign up, setup, and the revenue side of our platform. So sign up, I mean, it's very easy to get to. You just go to knowify.com. On this page, I show a direct link, but if you go to knowify.com, click the big green button at the top that says Start My Free Trial. It's going to take you straight to this link. We would recommend, though, since you guys are not contractors looking to sign up right away, you're rather advisors looking to sign up on behalf of clients, please email us when you expect to get a new tenant started. There are a couple reasons for this. One, we will link it to your advisor account. Two, we have a reseller agreement. So if you want commissions from us, if you want the revenue share, all those things, it's much, much smoother if you email us in advance so that we can know that we owe you those things. And three, and this is actually sort of important, we really bend over backwards to make pro-advisor referrals succeed, because we know it's more than just some guy coming on in kicking the tires. This is a real potential client. We close them at a very high rate. So we will really, we will bend over backwards, I say it again, to make your client happy. And to get that level of service, and we try very hard with all our clients, we try extra hard with yours, to get that level of service, we need to know that it's a pro-advisor account. And we will be adding some tools in the advisor-specific account soon to automate a lot of this. All right, so let's talk about the setup process. So setup in Knowify is very simple. It's step by step. It's going to be very familiar to you if you've gone through setup in any SaaS platform. But the first thing you're going to want to do is enable features. Make sure that you know your client's requirements. So if they do any dispatch, for example, your plumbing, HVAC clients, a lot of them will have some service work. Also find out if they need to do AIA billing. Those are two things that are explicitly turned off or on in setup as necessary. So you'll want to gather some of those requirements in advance just so you can set up your account correctly. In terms of users and giving them access to the system, we strongly recommend only starting with 1 or 2 office users. Obviously, your clients may have many, many more users in the future, but again, our goal here in this implementation process, keep it small and then expand later. Do fill out your rate cards, though. It's something that people often forget to do, and then they wonder why they're not getting good labor job costing, a week later. So, while you're going through setup, do fill out the rate cards. Add the logo. If your client doesn't have a logo, I would recommend you go back and look at our webinar from last month, which would show you how to deal with sort of basic professional submissions like that, and get them started on a better foot. And then 4, so this is actually a really important one. Contact us about custom templates. Nothing makes a client happier than to see some really awesome custom designed proposal coming out of Knowify for e-signature that looks branded specifically to their business. So we can do that. We can do it quickly. We would love to collaborate with you on figuring out exactly what would serve your client best. And we can turn it around quickly, usually within a day or 2. So give us that chance to do a custom template for you, or with you rather, and together, we can really impress the client and make them feel good about this new software you're trying to get them going with. All right, on the QuickBooks side, the Connect is very easy. You click on a button that Intuit actually provides, and then you actually get sent over to the Intuit side. If you're already logged into QuickBooks, I think it's even easier. And then in terms of setting up the sync on the Knowify side, we have a section, if you go in the main navigation of Knowify, called QuickBooks, and then you just have to set a bunch of defaults. If you've never done it before, it's pretty straightforward. We have a YouTube video that can show you how to do it. You can also contact us, and we'd be happy to walk you through it. Just make sure that you're setting company level defaults for revenues and expenses, and also for vendors that are not going to push you the company level default. So for contractors, we almost always recommend the company level default expense to be like cost of goods and materials, something like that. And then you would go through your vendors and find, for example, subcontractors and make sure that they were going to point to a different account. You want to make sure your account for time is also set. Lastly, there's some optional features on our QuickBooks Sync that that you should really think about. We would recommend, especially in the early stages, turning both of these on. But they're one that every job in Knowify will push a QuickBooks Online subclient. That obviously can be very handy because it means that both systems are completely synced up. And the second one is that we're going to pull expenses and bills from QuickBooks Online, and that also has some pretty cool functionality as well. The question here from Michelle is, can we set up Knowify for work in progress rather than immediate expensing? Sure. I mean, you can code it to whatever account you want. If you would prefer to code it to a work in progress account, I mean, yes, you can do that. Obviously, then in QuickBooks, at some point, you would have to release it from that account and expense it. And that's fine if that's your preference. Okay, so the last thing about the QuickBooks account sync that we're going to want to talk about quickly is this switch from test to live mode. So test mode in Knowify is a really cool feature. It makes it so that you can import all of your clients and vendors and have them in your Knowify so you can play around, but not actually push anything to QuickBooks. And then once you're comfortable, you can click switch to live, wipe your data, and start fresh. Well, for you guys as pro advisors, I actually think it's often better to switch from test to live right away, make sure things are syncing, and then move forward from there, because yours is obviously a more curated journey. You're not just kicking the tires. Generally, it's a better commitment than that. So if you want to test, that's fine. But I mean, I would generally recommend switching to live quickly and figuring out if the QuickBooks Sync is live and working correctly as you expect. All right, so here's the first feature. This is what we're going to tell you to get your client started with after setup. So we just talked about setup. Setup is sort of boring, but the feature that's going to give you a lot of bang for your buck right away and make clients happy, well, after we do some custom templating work as part of the setup, let them go hands-on in Knowify and create a new job and a proposal. And once they've done that, send it to themselves or send it to a friend, whoever they want to send it to for e-signature. And what's really cool about that is they'll get to see how, with just a few clicks, they can come in, they can set up a job, they can add line items, add line item language, and fire it off for e-signature and have it go out on a really cool, professionally formatted PDF. It's a great wow moment. They all love it. And if they have work that they repeat over and over and over, we can do small little things like add a catalog service so that they're not retyping the same scope of work every time. And we're happy to work with you guys on those little enhancements. But by and large, this is a great first step. And you can see actually on the left side of the screen, you have to choose how you're going to build a job and also what kind of job costing you're going to use. Tell them not to focus on the job costing to start, but that they should choose simple. And in terms of how they're going to build a job, I mean, it's going to be a very similar experience whether you choose owner, contractor, GC bid. GC bid is going to be the AIA billing type. And then once the job goes live, show them how to add a change order. It's in the same general screen, the same general process. You just click a button saying add change order, add line item name and scope of work and price, and then send it out for e-signature. Contractors really like that. I mean, again, it's totally automated. It makes something painful like change order management very easy. So easy feature, but big win, great place to start. And then obviously once you have it, we can solve another problem that QuickBooks Online has, which is that there's really no progress invoicing, and certainly let alone AIA invoicing in QuickBooks. So if they're doing proposal and change order management in Knowify, let's get them to use our progress billing tool, solve a hole in QuickBooks Online, and it's very easy. I mean, it really is another one of our very easy to use features. So in terms of phase 1 implementation in Knowify, we go through setup, and then we get them going on contracts and change order management, and then simple invoicing. And already you've delivered some pretty good value right there. The one star that we would want to throw in here is if your client does a lot of time and materials work, obviously that's a much more complicated implementation. If you do want to get started with time and materials work, give us a call. We do have an alternative implementation plan for T&M. It's obviously it's more complex just because that's the nature of the beast. T&M is more complex because it touches all the areas of the business. you have to get time in, you got to get expenses in, etc. So give us a shout. We'll show you how to handle that separately. All right, so adding job costing. So this is the reason why many people use Knowify, as I mentioned before. So obviously you're going to want to add job costing pretty quickly. When to move forward, like how quickly? We say don't move into phase 2 the same day. I mean, it's really not a good idea unless the client is very tech savvy. I mean, really, let's take baby steps here and make sure the client is getting a sense of how this new software works, how we create jobs, how we go set up a proposal, and how we can invoice these things, and just get comfortable with that flow until we start adding, before we add job costing. So we say generally time frame here is a week or two. So let them do the basics for a week or two, and then let's move forward into job costing. And then when we do move forward into job costing, let's keep it really simple. Just to start, as I mentioned, Knowify has all this powerful project management and multi-line item budget management. So really cool stuff, but don't start there. You're going to hugely overwhelm your clients, and they're going to throw their hands up and walk away. So what we recommend is use simple job costing. Now, simple job costing is about all materials and labor getting costed against against a single labor and materials budget item. So probably not as much resolution as you like, but it's very easy, and it's a great way to get started. And frankly, for a lot of contractors, it's still going to be way better information than they already have. And the really cool thing, and this is sort of an added benefit, is if you only have a single budget line item against a job, then the pull from QuickBooks for things like bills and expenses is totally seamless. That the second you hit sync, we're going to pull those expenses, pull those bills from QuickBooks, and they're going to get costed to that job right away. You're not going to have to tell Knowify which budget item those things go to. All right, so we would recommend, since we're doing simple job costing mode to start, actually use it. Let's turn on QuickBooks bill and expense pushing because it's going to, again, keep the process the same. People still will keep entering bills, entering expenses in QuickBooks. We'll just pull them into Knowify for job costing. And then we're going to add here time tracking from the office in the Knowify time tracker. So you can do this either by employee or by job. We have a couple different ways to do this. It is generally very straightforward, and then time will push to QuickBooks. We would not recommend starting with the mobile app. It's just another layer of complexity, and generally once you get the field guys involved, they can be sort of a pain, frankly. And we want to make sure that the office understands how Knowify works before adding a layer of complexity that's going to inevitably involve some troubleshooting with the field. So what does this job costing implementation look like? This sort of simple version of job cost implementation. Your client's going to be setting up jobs in Knowify, and Knowify is going to push a sub-client to QBO. Now, that's not required, as I mentioned, it's an optional feature, but very strongly recommended for this early phase. 2, you're going to be entering time from the office in Knowify, and then Knowify, when the time is approved, will push that time to QBO. So we're not adding any extra work, we're just changing where some things happen. And then the next big set, we're going to enter bills and expenses in QBO for the sub-client, so which would actually be the job in Knowify. And then you'll come back to Knowify, hit sync now, those things will pull into the job from QBO, and then we'll have combined labor and material costing in Knowify. And we will have achieved basic job costing. I mean, that's what we were going for here, getting basic job costing in place for this client, and we'll have gotten there. At this point, hit pause on the implementation. I mean, we already have the machine sort of running. It may not be the sports car you're looking for, but it may be a Ford Focus, but that's okay. It's still rolling. And while the machine is running and running smoothly, let it get set. And just, let's have some perspective that we're already having a nice impact on the client's business. We've automated their bidding and change order process with e-signature. We've simplified their progress billing a lot, because as you know, QuickBooks Online does not do progress billing. And we're giving them job P&Ls with detailed breakdowns in real time. I mean, that's pretty good as a starting point. Can we do better? Sure. But just in terms of this first step implementation, we're doing a great job already. All right, phase 3. Now we get to add everything else. And frankly, that's not really the focus of this presentation, rather, because there's so much to add that that really this comes down to what the client specifically needs. So we have a lot of very powerful additional features that can be added depending upon the client's needs once phase 2 is complete and stable. So we have a mobile app. The mobile app can manage service tickets, timekeeping, pictures, reimbursements, purchases, expenses, all sorts of cool stuff. We have purchase orders for clients that want to do POs through Knowify. It's a very popular feature. We do a great job of it. I would really recommend that you look into it, but don't start there. But once they're ready, if they want to do purchasing with us, let's do it. And it's really cool the way you can track purchasing in Knowify in real time. 3, we have scheduling. We do not only job scheduling and high-level corporate calendar scheduling. We also have a weekly job board where you can do resource scheduling, clicking guys on, clicking guys off of jobs. Very powerful, but again, a layer of complexity that should only be added once the basics are in place and running. And then when the client is ready, you can also move on from simple job costing into the more complex areas of advanced and professional job costing. Professional job costing being the type in Knowify that's going to be very budget-based, where you go in and build complex multi-phase plans with budgets for labor and materials and subs, etc. There's a ton of power here. I mean, obviously, that's where I would say the real power in Knowify is. It's also more work and more complexity, and you shouldn't add it until everything else is in place. And moving up from advanced to advanced or professional too early is a classic red flag for us. If we see a client come on that's never used this before, start immediately in professional, we look at that as, oh boy, let's try to walk them back. Because every other feature in Knowify will be impacted by that choice. If you're using professional mode, suddenly when you're cutting POs or doing time tracking, you have to choose the phase of the job against which the purchase of materials or the time is going. So, I mean, things like that, it's a widespread choice. It is, as you'll see here in the third dash, it is the key, finally, for them to get better and more profitable long-term, because it will give them the most insight into how well they're doing in estimating, how well they're performing in the field, all those things. I mean, it's a very powerful feature. And over time, we would strongly encourage you to get them there. Just don't start them there. All right, so what's the summary here? Slow and steady wins the race. Knowify is inexpensive. I mean, we're starting with 2 office users and a couple of field users at $86 a month. I mean, relative to our competitors, we really are very inexpensive for construction software. There shouldn't be any rush to get, to have your client get every last drop of value out of the system. So let's go easy and get the easy win right off the bat. Let's do proposals, change orders, and invoicing. And right there, we can justify our cost. And then let's add job costing. But let's do it in a way that is very lightweight, at least to start. And then, a little tip that I would say for you guys, don't forget to call on us. I mean, we, as a customer service team, we love supporting pro advisors. So call us, tell us what you need, tell us what we can do to make you and your client more successful, and we absolutely will do it. I mean, we love working hand in hand with pro advisors, because finally, if a pro advisor is driving implementation, that's a huge win for us, and it almost always ends well. So we want to support you, we want to help you. Let us know what we can do, and we'll be there for you. All right, so I apologize again for the tech glitch earlier. I would like to open up the call quickly to Q&A and see if anybody has any questions about this implementation path we discussed. Otherwise, any questions anywhere? All right, I mean, it seems not. So thank you again for joining us. We will certainly put up the recorded presentation on YouTube. If you'd like to see any demos, if you'd like to see anything from us that can help you, or maybe show Knowify to a client, we'd be more than happy to arrange such a thing. Please email us at support@knowify.com. You can also email me directly, djr@knowify.com. And again, I just want to reiterate, we want to do everything we can to make you successful. And Knowify, it's a big platform. It can do a lot of things for your construction clients. If we get the implementation path right, It's really just a couple of months of lower intensity use that gets them, into it, understanding how it works, and within 2 or 3 months, they're really hitting their stride. They're getting a lot of value out of the system. So thank you again for joining me, and I look forward to connecting with you all hopefully sometime next month. All right, take care.